Hello again. I'm back. I told you I was going to be more consistent, and I have tea. Isn't it kind of interesting how, you know, life's simple pleasures just become more simple the older you get? I'm so satisfied just having a cup of tea, and yeah. So there's a topic that I kind of want to talk to you about, and I just want to speak out loud about some thoughts that I've been having, and I don't have answers to what I'm talking about. I'm putting the conversation out there and sharing what's going on in my head, but this video is not going to provide answers. It's just maybe going to give insight, or maybe you'll just feel validated that someone else is thinking some of the same things you're thinking. And I'm thinking maybe I'll call these little rambly type videos like tea time discussions or tea time videos, because I'll just be drinking tea and rambling, and hopefully I'm at least a little bit coherent. Time will tell. So here's my question for you all. My question of the day is social media ethical? And more specifically, is it ethical in 2025? I'm a millennial, so I was around at the very start of social media. I remember when MySpace was all the rage, and even before that, just AIM Messenger. And that seems like a really long time ago. We were really naive back then. And I feel like we've gone through different iterations of learning and lessons since the onset of social media. I remember when I was a kid, there was, all the fear around predators on the internet, and people had to kind of figure out how to make the internet safe for kids. They didn't really understand the capacity that social media had, the capacity for danger and for talking to strangers and what that meant. I mean, it was just this new phenomena, this new concept. So of course a lot of trial and error happened, and I mean, very sad because it was very destructive in the beginning, and some would argue it's still very destructive for different reasons. But yeah, I remember being a kid and social media came out. The biggest worry about social media was predators. And then it evolved and it became bullying. So what started out as this new experimental thing, and they had, oh, that's my bird clock. I have a bird clock, I know. I'm like an old lady. Anyway, so what started out as this new cool thing, and then we started realizing, oh my gosh, there's predators on the internet, kids have access to social media is cool and exciting for them, how do we keep them safe from the predators? Then the next big iteration of problem that we had to fix with the social media sphere and space, and also this is also, I guess, combined with the internet. I mean, the internet arose before social media, so before social media in its true form, where it became so explosive. But a lot of this, I guess, overlaps, but for the purpose of this video, I'm mostly talking about social media. But yeah, what started off as being really cool. The internet was of course really, really cool and really exciting. And that was more the 90s, maybe even the late 80s, I don't know. And then social media, just so exciting for kids who were on the internet, and the internet was still pretty new to their parents, and then we just didn't know what the kids were getting into. And then so after that first iteration of oopsie, which was, oh, we need to safeguard people against predators, we had the bullying thing. And that was actually kind of a big deal even locally, where I'm from. A lot of horrible things happen with bullying during this time that took place on the internet and off the internet, so on social media and off social media. But I'm sure you don't need me to explain this to you. It was a nationwide problem. There was a movie called Cyberbullying made about it. Basically, social media was so new to us, and we didn't know the effects it would have on the psyche of all of these kids, when they would have their little community, their whole network at school would also be online, and online they would say things that they would never say in person at school, because they felt this weird illusion of safety saying something cruel to somebody because they were behind a screen and they were using a keyboard to say it. Plus, there was the whole element on social media of anonymity. So, I mean, things just got dark. And if you've ever watched Cyberbully, you know this. That was a good movie. We love Emily Osment. But seriously, though, it did get dark, and it was really, really sad. And I'm not saying that cyberbullying isn't a thing anymore, but I am saying that I think the social media has kind of evolved out of that being the main, I keep using the word iteration, iteration of error in social media or phase of disillusionment. I think cyberbullying has kind of become a thing of like the early to like 2010s, early 2000s to 2010s. Because I guess, I don't know what happened. I don't know why cyberbullying kind of stopped. I mean, I'm sure people are still mean online, and I'm sure it still affects people negatively, especially young people. But I think maybe people stopped taking the internet as serious. And I also think like it's just become something else. And I guess also there was probably, I mean, I never cyberbullied anyone, so I don't know, but I'm assuming there were probably like major consequences if you were a kid and people like found out it was you, and maybe that kind of deterred people. And then of course now you have like reporting functions and block functions, and like in the beginning of social media, like we didn't even really know why we would need those things or under what parameters, and now we've evolved so much. And kind of like, you know, anytime something is introduced and it's new, there's going to be these errors that happen, and they get fixed, I guess, or they are attempted. Like there's attempts to fix them. So anyway, that brings us to 2025. And I guess, well, there is cyberbullying in 2025. Like a lot of it is on Reddit, I think. And X, you know. I don't need to say any more about that, but you know. So now we're in 2025, we're thinking about social media. Is it ethical or not? That's such a big question, and it's like too vague to give a real answer, but like I said, this is a babbling video. I've been thinking lately about the nature of like social media, and also more specifically content creation and YouTube and TikTok and this whole like short form content that's taking off with reels. And I don't know, like I feel like I've lived like a double life. Like as somebody who loved watching YouTubers since I was like 16, 15, I don't know officially when I started, but it was like kind of those early days of YouTube. I always like loved to watch them, but it was like I was ashamed of it in some way. Like I felt it was a lower caliber of entertainment compared to traditional media, and that it was silly, and that it was crude and like non-intelligent for some reason, even though I had no real reason to think that. I guess I don't know if it was like just because it was user oriented and you could find like anything, you know, like anyone could upload anything, so you would find a lot of like really inappropriate or unfunny things, or just like things that are, you know, put up just in poor taste, and it all gets bucketed into this like YouTuber, like social media realm. But I don't know, lately me thinking like I want to put more into content creation and take it seriously, instead of what I used to do when I would upload videos with just like a one-off video of me cooking or trying to do my little hobbies and put them online. Now me trying to take content creation seriously and like build a brand or whatever that means. I guess I've been rethinking like what is my relationship to YouTube, and what is my relationship to content, and what is my relation to social media as a whole? Like what is the purpose of social media, and what has the purpose been in my life? And I have to say that at a very base level, like the purpose of like YouTube in particular and kind of like parasocial relationships with people that really film a lot of their life and post it online, a lot of it has been kind of an antidote to loneliness in difficult times and times when I felt really isolated, or like people in my real life didn't understand me very well. And, you know, I can't say, like, part of me wants to say, well, maybe that was a band-aid, and maybe what I should have done if I hadn't had access to this crazy internet world with like tons of posts and you know, the addictions that we have to our phones and the internet, maybe if I didn't have access to that, I could have developed more community, because I would have been forced to, you know what I mean, like in-person community. And I think that's a fair point, and I look back on that and I think like maybe that is true. But then the other part of me thinks like, wow, the people that I really appreciated that were online, like, and that I still appreciate, they did teach me a lot. And they especially more of like the spiritual natured channels that I would watch and that I still watch, or like healing journeys, and also even people that are not like trying to add value to your life per se, but the way they, like, in terms of teaching you something in a series, or their content is based around like self-development, people just being unapologetically themselves on camera and sharing it with you, like, that does kind of change you as a viewer a little bit when you watch it, because you think, oh, that type of confidence exists, and you see it in another person, and you think, oh, they're like me, I see myself in them, in their vulnerability. And that's kind of cool. And like, I'm a person who loves TV and film and literature, and I always saw myself in entertainment, but I saw myself in storytelling. And you do see humanity through storytelling and in fictionalized stories, but I guess I'm seeing content creation in a little bit of a different light recently, and thinking about some of the judgments I've made toward it, and I'm thinking to myself, there's such a raw self-expression in content creation that's not found in other mediums, because it's somebody who's simply offering themselves. And I don't know, maybe that sounds a little cheesy, and as an artist, as somebody who likes to write and who likes to act, like, I do feel like I offer myself in character or in story. And as someone who likes to write fiction and has written non-fiction as well, like, I heard a quote once that said, you know, if you want to know who I am, don't read my nonfiction, read my fiction, because people throw themselves into these characters because they feel more safe to show who they are through a character, versus like talking directly as themselves in like an autobiography, you know? But then then in contrast, it's like people who create content as their own brand, as themselves, it's like they have no filter. They're being completely who they are. And that can be powerful, you know, like in a way that other mediums just are not. And I don't know, does that take away from our experiences that we can have in the real world? And then of course, one obvious con is like addiction to social media that so many people have, and that I have. I don't want to like say other people and then me, like I'm better. No, like I'm in it too. Obviously, I think most of us are addicted to our phones to some degree, because it's just not natural to be on our phones as much as we are. But like, is there a way to temper that? Like, is there a way that we can use social media in a healthy way that inspires and influences, but doesn't consume us? And I've been thinking about this idea of creation versus consumption, and that's part of why I want to create on here and start making content, because I have consumed so much content for so long, but I do feel like for a long time I was like happy to consume and kind of take in other people's worldviews, and it was comforting for a while, and it's, of course, it still will be in the future, and I want to keep up with the people that I like to follow and kind of glimpse into their lives. But there are times also when you're called to create, and you know, you can't get stuck on only consuming all the time, but like how can this ecosystem of social media benefit both the viewer and the creator of social media content? And then you have all these other elements of negatives of social media beyond addiction, like comparison, and people who have body image issues because of the quote unquote perfect bodies that they see online. And it's like, how do you curb that? Like, not all social, obviously we know this, but just if I wasn't clear, not all social media posts and content is good. Like, a lot of it is really damaging. It's not this like amazing mystical thing all the time of like self-expression and authenticity. A lot of it is people wearing masks and people not being authentic and trying to create insecurity in other people. And I think a lot of the time people who like post content that's like altered or masked and tries to paint them out as perfect people, their intention isn't to make people feel insecure, right? I really don't think it is. But advertisers and brands, we know for a fact that the intention a lot of the time is to make people feel insecure. Not all the time, but sometimes. And there's one reason for that. It's to sell products that they convince you will help you with the insecurity that they just bred into you. So, of course, you have to watch out for that on social media too. But I can't help but, I don't know, it's just a lot to think about. I guess in summary, I can't help but be kind of impressed at the vastness of the social media landscape and the fact that, traditional media is dying. And even from like a political perspective, people get their news from social media now, and people understand world news in a different way. We see videos coming out of other countries that we never would have seen, like 40 years ago or whatever, pre-internet and pre-social media. And so it's actually, when you think about it like that, kind of a fantastic resource. In a spiritual sense, it's like we can visually and audibly be connected to people in different parts of the world in a way that we never had access to before. And it's sort of overwhelming. And a lot of people have said, like, well, as humans, we were never meant to consume this much information all the time. But I think about the goldfish analogy of like a goldfish will grow to the size of whatever like bowl you have it in, because it evolves, right? Like, it'll get bigger if you give it more space. And sometimes I think as humans we're getting dumber, but we have all of this more information. So that's kind of interesting. Like, maybe we're going in the opposite direction, and the analogy doesn't fit for us. Or maybe we're developing in ways that we're not really quite aware of or sure of, but we'll be more aware of in retrospect. There's, all things considered, there's a lot that we don't even know or understand about the impact of social media because it is still so new. But as long as it's here and as long as we're interacting with it, I think it can, as to the best of my ability, I would want to use it for good. And it is an offering out there of a platform, of a way to use a voice and to reach people. And I can say from a viewer perspective, I've been reached by a lot of videos that I've seen, a lot of things I've read, a lot of people I've connected with. I mean, I've made friends on social media, and that's kind of interesting and kind of neat and kind of insane to think about, but I don't know. So what's your opinion? Do you think social media is ethical? Was it ever ethical? Do you think it's ethical in 2025? What do you think the future holds for social media, for content creation, for YouTube, for TikTok? I want to know your thoughts, so write them in the comments. And you can hear something in the background, my dog's drinking water. Let's have a discussion in the comments about your views on social media, and subscribe for more tea time conversations.